My name's Marianne. I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Hi, Marianne.
Grateful to be over here in the neck of the woods. I was up here for a little while. I lived up this way for probably about 3.5, 4 years. Tried that thing called marriage and moved back to Everett area. Me, myself, and I. Right? See how that goes. That always works out. Life on life's terms, right? Grateful to be who I am, though, and thankful for my recovery, that's for sure. So my clean date is 9/21/10. I got 15 years, 4 months, and 2 days. Man, I'll tell you what, life on life's terms is a mofo, right? Grateful for it. At the same time, man, talk about a punch in the throat and a kick in the face. And then big smiles and big hearts and big great things, go Hawks, right? Right? So, man, so sponsorship, that's our topic, right? And my topic for that is amazing. So when I got clean in prison because I don't get clean on the streets, right? I don't get clean in detox centers. I don't get clean in treatment centers. I got clean in prison. And not even in county jail, if some of you know, right? So in prison, my second time, not my first time, because my first time, I did all the things, right? Kept all the behaviors, did all the no-nos and prunos and all those things, right? And my second sentence, I was looking at 120 months, right? And I didn't know anything about recovery aside from still being on the streets, doing the treatment centers, the DUIs, all those things were you got to go to meetings, you got to do that, still signing slips, still learning left hand, right hand signatures, and all that different color pens in my backpack and all that shit, right? Pulling up there and meeting somebody outside to try to get them to sign something else and doing all those things. And I just didn't get it, right? You just don't get it till you get it, right? So something clicks. And the only thing that clicked for me is the judge said the very next time I see it, it'll be 14 flat. And I'm like, I think I'm good. I think I'm cool. And I was sitting on that 120 months, and I was able to sit it out for 6 and plead down to 7. And I did 5 on 7. And in that 5 years, that was my second sentence, right? In that 5 years, I did all the things carrying out the yard, tanning, rolling the sleeves, pulling up the shorts, little headphones, all the Nikes, all those things that weren't mine. But I rocked them, right? And I just kept hanging out in the yard, doing the thing. And I kept seeing these women that would get properly dressed and go through the yard and head into a group room, right? And I'm like, it's nice out. What are you doing? And that just kept happening. And then I started being interested. What's really going on here? And I kind of glance in the office and look at the room and notice that they're sitting outside the room and they're crying with these women that I'd never seen these women before. They're got this piece of paper and they're talking about the books and they're doing these things. I'm like, what are they? Why are they going in here to cry? Are they getting in trouble again? They getting more time? What's happening, right? And I just keep sitting out there, and one of the girls goes by that I'm from the streets with. It's like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, we're going to meetings. I'm like, okay, meetings. What meetings are we talking about? Is it something that's going to help me get my kid back or do something like that? And they're like, yeah. Well, I'm thinking it's parenting classes and shit like that, right? Which is the direct that I thought was going to get me there. And they're like, no, they're recovery meetings. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah. Well, in there, it was the other fellowship at the time, and so I was like, well, that's not even my gig, so I'm cool, right? Because I didn't qualify as that gig because I was the other one, right? I'm an addict. I'm a drug seeker. That's what I do. The other one was just a temporary fill-in in between. And so just one day, it was pouring down rain outside. And I'm like, well, I can't lay in the yard. And I didn't want to have to be locked up in my room. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to suit up when they call it over the radio. I'm going to go check it out because I don't want to be locked up. We can go to those, right? But we can't go anywhere else, especially when it's raining. So I'm like, okay. So I got properly dressed and went with a bunch of the girls. They're like, oh, you're going to love it. I'm like, this is stupid. But I'm not going to be locked up. So, and we go to the meeting and we're sitting in there and it was, I don't even know, 15 minutes in and I'm a fucking mess. I'm bawling and I'm snotting and I'm just like, what in the hell is really going on, right? My story was being told in multiple angles, right? I'm not terminally unique. I'm just broken, bruised, and confused like everybody else that I've met. finally have met in my time at that time, right? And didn't realize like I wasn't the only one who'd been through all these things that happen in life to a percentage of most of us, right? And so for myself, like I got to sit still for a few minutes, hear everything going on, feel the sickness inside of me, and be like, what is really happening? Because all these things start happening and coming back and changing, what I thought was that I was terminally unique, that it was just me, nobody else, even though I knew because I was on the streets with these people for 7 years, right? I lived on the streets for 7 years, absolutely homeless, no shoes sometimes, in the snow. I always tell the story in November. I was literally crossing in Everett, crossing across Broadway, and I had one shoe and the other one was half of a shoe. And by the time I got across to the Jackpot from the Brown Bear car wash, the other shoe was gone, right? Like just gone. And it was so cold and the snow. And I'll never forget that because I had to find a place or find a way to figure out how I was going to get off that cold street, right, with one shoe. And I ended up doing all the things that I never wanted to do to get to where I got to go, right? Had to figure out how I was going to get some money to get a place to go to wash my ass and fix myself or just have a decent bed to sleep in, whether it was somebody else's or not, because that's my truth, right? And so when I was in prison, I'm going to these meetings and I start to go again. Next thing you know, I got a book that they gifted me, right? And then I'm showing up more often. And then these women that are coming in there start loving on me and talking to me. And of course, the one that I picked, my sponsor, who was coming into the meetings, was like, rah, right? That's who I need. She was yay big, cup of coffee, cigarette in one hand, like, I don't give a fuck, do the steps or die. And I'm like, what? I mean, don't you know? Like, I'm fucking mushy and crying and all these things, And she's like, you weren't afraid out there, and now you're going to act like you have a problem in here? Like, do something. Remember, you're badass. You're in prison. Like, you got all these felonies. You're going to act like now all of a sudden you're scared, right? And I was like, okay, fine. So anyways, as my time was coming through, she was with me the whole time, right? She stayed with me. And that was at like two years, right about the 2-year mark is when I started doing the meeting things, right? And then I'm thinking like, well, I'm halfway to the gate, right? I'm going to have to figure out what I'm doing. And of course, I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be all these things that like I only dreamed of being. And I wasn't doing it by myself. And after a few meetings and then a few months and then a year in, and like my parents all of a sudden filled out a visitor's form, and because they weren't talking to me when I went back the second time in prison. They're like, nah, bitch, we're good, thank you. And all of a sudden they put a visitor's form in, and I'm like, oh my God, one thing's happening here, a little more and a little more. And the progression started where I stopped beating myself up so much, right? And then I started recognizing that like, holy crap, I feel something different, a little bit nicer. I gave a shit a little bit more, right? It wasn't all about me anymore. And for the longest time, it was just all about me and how was I going to make it and where was I going to get it and how I was going to do it. And like my first prison sentence, I didn't even think about anybody else but myself. And I was doing all the things. And when I got out, it was 15 months from gate to gate. And when I got out, I thought I was going to be okay and be good. And I had these roommates and all these people. And when I came back, I was like coming in like this. And they're like, really? You're back? And I'm like, I'm back. What? And they're like, fuck you. We've been in here the whole time. You were supposed to go out and live some life. And now you're back here with us. I was like, but I'm back. They're like, no, that's not the point, right? And the sergeant's like, oh, God, okay, And so what I got to do is I got to learn how to read the literature, feel what I got coming, know when it's coming, and understand that I get to do something about it, like talk about it rather than just be like, And my sponsor was soft enough, just a little bit, enough to take the time to sit down with me and listen to me cry about it, listen to me talk about it, and then she's like, okay, now what are you going to do about it? I'm like, okay, I don't know, And so then fast forward, like I go into, I'm at the last 2 years of my time, I enter into this Infinity program, and I get into that Infinity program, and it's a remodification program. And like they teach you how to stand in props, sit with proper respect to people speaking, stand in line instead of do the whole, do all the things that I'm used to doing, right? And I did that, and you have to get at least to the 5th step before you can graduate and come out of there, right? And you can lose time if you're not doing what you're doing, right, properly. Like they check you. They raise your awareness when you cuss. I got a problem. I actually learned how to stop cussing. Like I stopped cussing. That's not the case anymore. Thank you. But I actually learned how to stop cussing. I actually learned how to remodify myself at that period of time, which intently taught me that I could actually do things. I can teach myself how to do different things. I can learn, listen, and live differently, right? And my sponsor kept telling me, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. And I'm like, I don't know if I can or not, And she's like, yes, you can. Absolutely. Well, then fast forward, I went to work release, right? And I got the full 6 months this time to work release. And so I went to Bremerton, Kitsap County, and I released out of there. That's where my parents were. That's where I grew up, mostly, right? And so I released to Kitsap County, and I went to work release there. And my sponsor, graciously, you know what I mean? She showed up every week. And every week she was there. It was twice a week we could leave the facility. And then I got a job the 3rd day out, and it was at Barrier Key. Like making all the things I could never have while I was locked up. That affected me a little bit later. Then it taught me I had to lose some weight and do something different. But so the bottom line is that she would show up and she'd pick me up. You can go to 3 places when you get out at work release, right? You can go to the store, you can go to a meeting, and then you can go to a stable living environment, which was my parents' house. And so we would go to the store, I'd get my hygiene, I'd get my things, buy my stuff, my candy, whatever. And then we go to a meeting, and I found a home group then. And I started working on steps, and I started working more. And I was actually like working steps and getting freedom from self, right? And that sponsor, she loved me no matter what. Well, I was locked up, still at the facility, but working. And she's like, you're not working on your steps. I go, well, yes, I am. And she's like, nope, I want a step a week. I'm like, what? I'm working full time. She's like, and you're locked up. So what? I'm like, no, but I'm working. She's like, you're working overtime intentionally. I'm like, well, yeah. She's like, no, you're going to work, and then you're going to work on your steps, or you're fired. I'm like, what? She's like, a step a week, or you're fired. That's it. I was like, okay, I will. Right? I will. And so I learned to start doing that and having repetition and a consistent movement about life with a forethought of working steps, paying attention, see how I'm doing things correctly, and making sure that I had care and consideration for what I was doing in my time management, right? Maybe not the case all the time now, but it was very vital in my first years or my first time coming out of prison, working a program. I never knew what a program was before that, right? And so relapse is not a part of my story, technically, because when I got out of prison the first time, I didn't know anything about, recovery. So I just went straight to the streets again. That was my gig. But this time coming out, I knew. I had snippets. I had intention. I knew that I had somebody over me that was absolutely going to ride me like crazy, right? And so my big gig was to come back to Everett area, Snohomish County, because my son was there, and I wanted to be a mom, right? I wanted to make amends. I wanted to be there for my parents. But I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? How am I ever going to live in that same area when all I did was dirt, right? I lived on those streets. I lived in all those byways and highway areas and off the streets and in the tents or in the boxes over there. I lived in all those places. How am I ever going to stay clean? I'm never going to be able to do it, right? My DOC officer allowed me to cross the line every so often for events, and cross the line to come over for my sponsor to take me over to see my son or to do those little important things that I needed to get some enlightenment in life, Then I finally got out of work release, and it was balls to the wall. I was all recovery, and I was doing this event and that convention and over here and over there. And my DOC officer was amazing, right? So I was blessed with that. And my sponsor was always with me. We were everywhere, all the Clean and Free and all these other events all the time. I remember I was like, yes! And I still am that way. I'm still that way. It's totally my gig. And I was just so thankful and grateful because I got to come out of my illness, right? I got to come out of the dark and into the light, right? And so I shine bright today as a result of working the steps. I went to Clean and Free. I'm going to do the sponsorship thing real quick. I went to Clean and Free the first time, right? And I was with my women from NA Everett area, and I walked up to this lady, and I was like, okay, I'm going to ask her to be my sponsor. I'm going to ask her to be my sponsor because my first sponsors died. She had a heart attack 2.5 years into my recovery, massive heart attack, and just died on me one day in the middle of my third round of my 6th step. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I don't know anything, right? And also, it was my first reality of somebody dying while I was clean. And how am I going to live through this? How am I going to do this? Somebody I love and somebody who loved me no matter what, right? And so it was a tough gig, but so I'm going to ask this lady at Clean and Free, and I remember it felt like the crowd parted, and I was like, there she is. I'm going to go and ask her. And I go walking up, and I was like, hi, Irene. And she goes, oh, hi. And I'm like, I was wondering, will you be my sponsor? And she just literally looks at me, and she goes, oh, I have you on Facebook. And I go, okay. And she goes, you're kind of a lot. And I go, okay. And she's like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I was like, okay, all right. And I turned around and I walk away, and my friend, my friend is standing over at the other side, and I turn around and I go walking over, and she's like, and mind you, she's got 8 years at this time, and she's like, and I go walking up and I go, she said I'm too much for her. And she goes, okay, honey, I got you. We're doing this together. And God knew what he was doing because that woman was the best blessing in my life. Let me tell you what. She today is still my sponsor. I had a moment where some things happened in life, and I went back over. I moved over here. I switched sponsors, and Norma was my sponsor for a while, which most of all of you probably Norma. And so, but then I moved back to Everett area, right? And so I went back to my original sponsor, who had been my sponsor for 12 years, right? And God gifted me her to teach me an easier, softer way to live, right? To work the damn steps or die, right? And also to give myself a break at the same time, And what I've learned along the way is that, like, we can be loved beyond the most beautiful ways and things, like through all the stuff in a harder, easier, crazier, softer way sometimes. Because like sometimes it's like, and what are you going to do about it? I'm like, why? You're not listening to me. This mother sucker did this, that, and the other. And you're the one in recovery. I'm like, you're right, I am in recovery. I got to work steps again. And so like, this life is like the biggest gift that God has ever granted this addict, right? Like, because I've once again, not terminally unique, but I've died 2 times, right? Like literally, I remember my last breath, and then I remember my first breath and being jacked up, right? And being like, I'm good, I don't give a shit, when I give a shit, right? I give a shit. And at 12 years, I was over here in Mount Vernon, and my intestines turned inside out. And I ended up in the hospital, and they overdosed me. I died, and then they brought me back. They overdosed me with, what's that damn drug they give everybody for pain? Dilaudid. They double dosed me on Dilaudid. It was in the paperwork, the whole deal. They double dosed me on Dilaudid, and I came back, and I was high as fuck. And then they kept me loaded, right? They kept me loaded because they had to do this big surgery on my whole insides. And when the medication was 6 a.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m. Well, if anybody knows when they've been in the hospital, when they come in and they do turnover, it's at like 6 a.m., so they don't get to you until like 7 or 8. And by then I'm dying, screaming. So they just bing, 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 bing. And it took 4 days before I was like, what the hell is going on? And I had to have a talk with them, right? What are you giving me? What are we doing? Get rid of that. Take that off. What's this? And that brought me to the Mount Vernon meetings because I was complacent for a while, right? Because I was married, living this life, doing this thing, like I'm a normie to a wife type of thing. And that didn't fucking work for me. Because I'm a real addict and I really need meetings and I really need recovery, right? And I also need sponsorship. Like I need sponsorship that I have to sponsor women. It's my gift that God gave me. Like I have to do it. I like to work steps with people. I like to have people around me. I like to go places, do things, and be all kinds of busy and up in the business, right? Plus I take a lot of pictures and that's my gig too. Yes, it is my thing. It is my thing. But, the gratitude that I have for my life is incredible. Like, I'm so thankful for my life because, like, there was periods of time in my life where I had a 4-year period where 17 people in my family died, right? And I was constantly crying in meetings, constantly just talking about it, crying about it, feeling it. I'm like, these motherfuckers are going to be sick and tired of seeing, oh, God, here she comes again. It's Marianne coming through the damn door. She's going to be crying about something again, But what I was gifted in knowing is that it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter about all that. What matters is that I get to cry about my real feelings. I get to talk about real life. And I get to share that with other people. And then we never know what it is that's helping somebody else in the room, right? As in fact, what ended up happening is I had a lot of people who died of cancer in my family. And so now when other people have things that come up in their family and there's a cancer thing, they tell them, call Marianne, she'll tell you how you make it through it. Call Marianne, she knows how that feels, how you walk through it, and so those are the gifts of recovery, right? Life on life's terms, and we get gifts out of it. We don't even know that until we know that, right? So for me, I'm loud and proud. Some people know me. I've not ever changed. I'm just so grateful for my life. I come into every room the same because I've found who I am, right? Working the steps relentlessly, no matter what. Living the life that I get to live today. Sharing it. If I recover out loud, in case you haven't noticed. And, in my career, I'm in the union. I'm a traffic control supervisor, and I get to work with so many other people in the program, so many other recovering addicts. We get to have moments where we stop and pray in the middle of the day, right? We get to look at each other and know what we're thinking. We get to know that, like, I'm going to my meeting tonight, and that's what needs to happen. That mother suckers did this, that happened over here, that's what we're doing. We're going to a meeting, okay, let's go to a meeting, right? And we work together too. My sponsee, and we work together too. And there was days where, like, she would come into work and she was flagging for me at that time, and she's like, it's time for you to show me how to do these things. I want to be a TCS too. And I'm like, yes, let's do that, And so we get to raise each other up, right? We get to help each other along the way, and I'm so grateful for that. Some of my sponsee for life sisters are here, yep, and my sponsees are back here too. There's a whole clan of us from every area, but my sponsor at one time, there was early in recovery, I had like 5 or 6 years, ladies. I had like 20 sponsees, right? And we were working steps, constantly having meetings at the house and all these things, and it was working good for me. I'm an all-over person, right? And my sponsor had 21 sponsees. And we did breakfast meetings all the time in pajamas. We did overnighters. We did all these things. And that's the kind of stuff I love to do. We do it in groups, right? So we get connected and we come together and we build relationships and we have safety nets. And that's what I was taught by my sponsor, right? And then my sponsor loves me enough to love all the other sponsees. And it's crazy that we have enough love within us to love so many people, right? That's my gift of recovery, and I'm thankful for that. I will talk all night, but I'm not going to do that because there's a time where I need to shut the hell up. But I'm thankful for my recovery. I love you all because you're a part of recovery, and we get to have life, right? Life on life's terms is a mofo, but what a blessing it is that we just get to do this over and over and over again, right? So I appreciate you. Thank you.